Hello, everybody. Welcome to Integrity Over Scale podcast. I am your host, Layli Sani, and of course, my co host here, Max. Thank you for hopping on as always.
Hello. Yes, for sure. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm actually on a little bit of a high. I taught my freshman students are fantastic, and I was teaching them this morning, and I'm learning to, I teach all of this and I try to apply it to my own life, but I was learning to scale back and use integrity and teach this specific freshman. I'm used to graduate students, so this has been a very interesting challenge for me
Yeah,
this
I'll bet.
semester. So, kind of just like toning down the business talk and helping them kind of connect with the materials a little bit more, but from a perspective of no experience whatsoever. So, I
Sure.
feel like today went really great. How was your day so far?
It's been great. I woke up early and, fortunately for me, unfortunately and fortunately, I don't have like a main office right now. So basically the morning is I get up and I get coffee and then all the animals follow me into the kitchen and I have to give them all treats. And then I get back in bed and drink coffee and basically open my MacBook right there and start working. So it's cool, but it can be distracting too because the TV's there and my guitars are here and like all of that stuff. But it's good. I'm in the zone. It's gonna be a good day. And I think we got a really cool topic to talk about today. So what is it? And then let's get into this.
Absolutely. I am actually really excited about this one. We're going to talk about the adoption paradox, why strategies fail without a soul in it. So it's
Mhm.
more about moving beyond this like binder mentality we've all learned from a leadership perspective and how we can make the change stick. And it's leading
Yeah,
with integrity than just like a checklist that we have.
for sure. Yep, I love that. And I know like you've seen it, I've seen it. Companies invest millions into new CRMs, new managers, a merger, a reconstruction. On paper the strategy looks great. It's put out, in front of everybody, but 6 months later, it's like a ghost ship, right? Like the systems are there, but the soul is missing. People aren't happy. Nobody's actually using it. That's another thing. Like I can't count how many times I've seen companies be like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. It's this new software. We're going to get it, install it, and nobody uses it. Nobody wants to use it. It causes frustration. But here's my question is why are brilliant leaders constantly falling into this trap of prioritizing the scale of a project over the integrity of the people's experience during that project? Because you and I both know that if you have a project, it doesn't matter what your projection is. If everybody that's helping you complete it is not feeling great
Mhm.
or there's some disconnection, doesn't matter how great your software is. Doesn't matter. So why does this keep happening?
I really love connecting what we're talking about to real life case scenarios. And I was actually reading this wonderful New York Times article that talked about the AI implementation. So we go back to
Mhm.
our last podcast we were speaking on, and the article wrote about how corporate investment has used AI and how it's surging. And business is
Yep.
spending tons, I mean, tens of billions of dollars,
Oh yeah,
expecting
it's huge.
if just completely gains like you said, this tool's coming in, it's fantastic,
Yep.
but most are not yet seeing meaningful returns on that investment because we are spending more time thinking about the technology rather than what's going to happen once the technology is in there. We're aggressively
Mhm.
investing with AI, we're aggressively investing in these platforms, but New York Times said it beautifully. Most are not going to see the financial return because there's going to be this gap between the promise of this technology and this is my favorite part of this article, the practical payoff of it. It's
Sure.
not there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think, when you're telling this to me, one of the first things that comes to my mind as a marketer and somebody that's in sales
Mhm.
is, you know, if I want to crush it for my company, I need to make who I'm selling to be certain that I'm the right choice, right? Now, That's not how I do things, because I do have integrity. Now, and I'm not saying salespeople that do that don't. Yes, you need to provide certainty. But the thing is if you have a brand new tool and you're not sure and you don't have any direct knowledge or experience, and you go in and you just do, this is going to do this, this, and this. The data says this, this, and this. It's going to be great. And then the marketing is awesome, right? It's like, your company is the top company, right? Like all of the marketing and the sales. And then, of course, like, my business is my baby. I'm sitting on the other side of that transaction. I'm like, yes, please, right? But they do it, they buy it, they implement it, and it doesn't do what it was. I mean, I've met marketers like this too that are like, dude, this is great. And I've wasted tens of thousands of dollars on tools and systems and things like that that didn't work.
Yeah.
And basically what I got back from the person that sold it to me was, hey, it's a learning curve. We're still figuring it out. And I'm like, well, pardon my language, but why the hell didn't you tell me that when you were selling it to me? You sold me on certainty, right? So I will say, if somebody's like, hey man, I need somebody that's, great with direct mail marketing, I'll probably say, I got 10 people I can refer you to, but that's not really my forte. I can do it, but I would much rather have you go with somebody who's got a system and proven data and results that can help you,
Yeah.
because you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. And actually, the cool and horrible thing about this is that the biggest winners have been companies, and I'm sorry, my dog is here, so if you
My
hear them,
cat,
you
my
hear them.
cat is right. I'm literally pushing my cat away from the
He's
screen, so don't
hearing
worry
my
about it.
voice and he's just so excited that I'm like wide awake
Right.
apparently. But the biggest winners have been companies selling AI.
Of
That's
course.
it.
Of course.
And
Sure.
it's not the end business owners or the end users, because they are just there to sell it. And this
Yep.
is why you see OpenAI, they're just like completely advertising all the new tools that are coming in there. They're not going to help you build what's going to happen with your end users. They're just going to sell, sell, sell. And the whole point of that is their goal is to make money. So
Of
then
course.
you're stuck with your own thoughts and processes of like, how are you going to do this with the success that you and I are talking about? And that's going to be the integrity part. That's going to be knowing how you're going to lead this.
Yeah, and I honestly, like, I learned this from one of my corporate bosses, but anytime there was a new software, this is before AI was out, before ChatGPT. Anytime there was a new software, he would tell the salesperson, if you can't give me like 2 weeks to go in there and try it and use it and see any results, then I don't want to buy it.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? Like, I mean, uh, and I'm not talking about like 19.99 per month. That's whatever. This
Mm-hmm.
is like, hey, this integration is going to cost 20 grand, and then we're going to be, like, if you're not going to let me use something like that because you're telling me, well, we have to implement it and there's costs on that side. I get that. I totally do. But if I'm running a multi-million-dollar corporation and you're going to sell me a piece of software and you're claiming that it's going to give me X, Y, and Z gains, I need to have some sort of data backing that up, some sort of proof. I need to see how it works, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I
So,
mean, roughly 8 in 10 companies, they're reporting using technology, especially, I'm specifically talking about AI just because we want a case study, right? Um,
right.
but just as many of the 8 of 10, they have not seen any results from it because their bottom line has not even been approached. Their AI tool doesn't work because at the bottom line, the goal that whatever they wanted to fulfill hasn't been hit yet. And this is again
Yeah.
all coming back to how are you going to lead this? What's your overall goal? And my favorite is, are you even accomplishing the mission statement of this company? Are you just bringing tools just for the sake of like, well, this CEO is using it, this
Sure.
CEO is using it, so I'm going to go ahead and put
Yep.
this in there because it's going to have to work. I have to make this work. I have to be competitive.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that's absolutely what's happening. And I don't, there's like this messy, kind of messy middle thing that's like, I think there's a lot of leaders, executives out there that reach their positions because of their, before AI and all this. So it's IQ, EQ, technical,
Mhm.
skills, all of that stuff. Sorry, that was my cat falling off the table. I'm going to go right back. Ringo, you can't jump up here, buddy. Okay. Yeah, and I think there's this messy middle thing, right? Which is like many leaders have reached their positions because of high IQ, technical brilliance and skills, and EQ. But when it comes to like the organizational change, that their brilliance or their like the leader can become a barrier
Mhm.
to to any change because they miss the vulnerability pivot. They're blinded by goals, numbers, you know what I mean? So when somebody comes in and is like, hey, maybe we should focus more on making the people feel a certain way, putting in some sort of like behavioral systems, focus more on that, and that's probably going to cost money. But look, in the long run, you're going to make way more. So it's like uh, like high output drivers, they understand there's dips, but they're like, how do I optimize everything, pay the least amount, get the most ROI, and also keep everybody happy. And the only way to do that is to put the people in your company first.
Yeah.
Where is it in? Is it in Norway? They have like 4-day work weeks now,
Mhm.
and
I'm not sure
those
where that
companies, though,
comes. Yeah.
it's somewhere,
Yeah.
somewhere like that, and those companies have
Mhm.
like gone way up in profit. They treat their people so differently. They don't work them to death. They don't expect them to answer. Like I think in France or something, it's like unethical to send a work email outside of work hours. Like people don't do that. You can't do that. Right.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying if you want to work like that, go for it. I'm not saying don't do it, but I was just at a lunch meeting yesterday with a brilliant woman. She is a corporate sales executive, and she's built several businesses for herself. And she was telling me about her current business, which is amazing. Get this: she is a professional house sitter.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah.
people pay her to go stay at their house, drive their cars,
Mhm.
eat their food, all this kind of stuff. And they're all these like really rich people that are always traveling, right? And she left corporate because she was a senior regional vice president, but she made tons of money, but hated her life because it was 24/7
Yeah.
chronic stress. The CEO of the company was ruthless. I don't want your excuses. I don't care how you feel. This is what I hired you to do. Can you do it or can't you? You know what I mean? And so she's
Mhm.
like, I didn't want, like, that was just not for me. And she's really driven, but so she's like, nope, I'm opting out. I'm going to do my own thing. And I think there's a lot of that going on, right? A lot of it.
There is a lot. Look, I think the problem that I'm seeing, and specifically in America, because I can't talk for any other culture per se, even though I've worked with a couple more leaders in different countries, our problem is we don't define hard work correctly. Like, what is hard work to you?
Mm.
Right. I was talking to a client of mine today, and she was mentioning a friend of hers is taking the bar test for, I think it's the third time. And
Okay.
her team had to basically pull her out of studying. She was studying consecutively for like 17 hours straight every day, where one of her team members came up to her and said, "We're going to go out. Like, this is unhealthy. This is not okay. We need to go out." Now,
Yep.
emotionally, I can't blame her because this is her third attempt. But something people don't say about the bar, specifically in the state of California, is that it is unfortunately very common to fail a few times before
Yeah.
you actually pass it.
Yeah.
So these types of examples, you understand where the leader's coming from, but you also have to help them and coach them with someone like myself to come in and tell them, let's define hard work. What does hard work mean to you? And start to help them shift that perspective, because I can almost guarantee if this person who was studying for the bar exam was taking breaks, taking care of her emotional health, taking care of her
Mhm.
mental space, right? It would shift her score.
Of
Um,
course.
and this is why we talk about the things that we talk about, because the hype is always going to be there with technology. It's always going to be part of it. But because we have technological challenges, because we have human factors like resistance, skill gaps, imperfect
Yeah.
results, I mean, these are the things that cause AI hallucinations when you feed the data to it, right? This is what's breaking us. And so we have to take that pause that we've talked about in this podcast over and over again and really focus on, hey, what is the real life case scenario? What do we apply here? What makes sense
Yep.
for people?
Yep, absolutely. 100% agree. And I want to ask you a question about biotech,
Mhm.
because like, so in your experience with biotech startups, or like with the large systems, why does, and I guess this could be for any industry, but I feel like this is one a good candidate for this. But when a leader says, I don't have all the answers for this rollout,
Mhm.
that usually speeds up adoption rather than slowing it down, right?
Yeah.
And I guess I mentioned biotech because that's such a, it's not like, how do we sell more sneakers?
Yeah.
It's very important, very impactful. But I feel like there's this thing where everybody wants to look like they have all the answers because of insecurity or ego. And I get it. There's a brilliant woman named Cody Sanchez, and she's got a podcast. I think it's called the
Mhm.
Big Deal Podcast.
Yeah.
I love her, and I listen to her religiously. But I was listening to this episode where she was basically saying, don't ever tell anybody I don't know. And her point was, say it in a different way, and I get that. It was all about language and how,
Mhm.
your language can make it so people won't listen to you or they will listen to you. But I was like, shit, I say, I sorry if I
You're
pardon the
fine.
cuss
You're
word,
fine.
like,
Yeah.
I say I don't know all the time. And when I say that, if I'm like, hey, I don't know, but we got to figure that out, usually the people under me are like, oh great, maybe I can help with this. Maybe this is something I can be impactful with. So I said, I don't know, like, what do you think? Like, I'm constantly asking people, what do you think? They're like, well,
Mhm.
you already created it. I know, but what do you think? Like, what's your opinion on it? You know what I mean? Like, when you do that and you say, hey, I don't know the answers to this, but I think you might. So
Mhm.
how can we do it?
Mhm.
That, like, when my bosses would ask me that, like, hey, I know you're really good at this stuff. I'm not. How can we make this happen?
Mhm.
I'd be like, oh my God, I'm like the guy. He thinks I'm the guy. I'm gonna like step it up. I feel better about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what's your experience with that, and how saying I don't know actually makes things move quicker as opposed to stalling them?
Absolutely. Here's where I go with the I don't know and what Cody Sanchez says. I don't disagree with that fully. I think it's a lot more complicated than that, and it depends on where
Right.
you are in your leadership role. So if you are a CEO, you're going to be a lot more about the conceptual skills. So the innovation, the brainstorming, the breakthrough, the new product,
Yep.
that's where your mind is going to be versus someone who's a mid-level manager. It makes sense that they say I don't know because they don't know. They are a lot more into the leadership realm and then the mid-level management realm. How you say it, sure, it does matter.
Yep.
But at the
Yep.
end of the day, this is what you need to accomplish, right? We always go with what's the core reason we're talking about this? People love empathy. They love to
Yes.
relate to you. But here's the big core piece of what we're talking about today. Less about the I don't know and more about the why we're saying I don't know. People just want empathy. Let's go into the core of why we want to say I don't know. And it's the empathy. Pure people want to feel that empathy. They want you to be relatable. And so, yes, we say the I don't know, and there are beautiful ways to say that. But at the end of the day, are you accomplishing the empathy? Are you accomplishing the relatedness? And I think that's what matters more than do you say I don't know or do you not say I don't know?
Yeah, I agree with you. So then what about this, like, this like the Machiavellian, like, be cold, don't say what you think, be the mysterious person in the room, take up a lot of space, like all of the psychological body signals of leadership, which I think are like the taking up space thing. I agree, like posture and all of that. But it's funny, like somebody was telling me, like, here's how you be a ruthless CEO. And I was like, no, that's how you were a ruthless warrior or emperor in, like, 1,000 years ago, bro. Like, things things are different now.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but like it's good. I'm a psychology guy, so I kind of love all of this stuff. It's just fascinating. Um, but to get back, can you share as like a scale first versus integrity first scenario?
Mhm.
Like, what does a pivot look like when a leader realizes they hit the wall? So we actually give like a real, like, this is what this would look like. So maybe somebody listening would be like, ah, okay, now I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go into your example that you just shared, which is, this like cold person, how they look and how they're perceived. From a short term perspective, this works fantastic because you get to look awesome. You're this big person, you gain respect. It's like power move, right? I am high. I am using my title to look a certain way. But people are smarter than they look.
Right.
That's why, from a short term perspective, it works. But from a long term perspective, your people will understand very quickly what's going on, even if you don't show it. So if someone was cold and aggressive and was just using their power dynamic to look a certain way, in the long term, people start talking about you. They know what to
Yes.
expect from you. They know that you're going to be so and so crazy when something like this happens, and what ticks you, what doesn't tick you. They start to study you because you're in this pedestal. And I always tell my students, I say, when you are up there, your weaknesses are 10 times more visible to your people. They just, because they're looking for it. They're looking for ways to relate to you. So they pick up anything that they can. So even if you're cold and this aggressive person, that is going to be your weakness, the coldness and the aggressiveness. So they're going to find and navigate ways around it. And what's even more interesting is they'll use the group of people that they know to work and fight against that, which is
Yep.
super dangerous if you sit in a leadership role where people are now managing you rather than you managing them.
Yeah, 100%. That's This just great. So then how do we change all this? Why, how come logic doesn't solve the fear that people feel? And, why is transparency a tool for speed when a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to share everything that I'm thinking and that I'm doing because then I'll be open for judge. It's all like fear, insecurity, or creating, feedback loops that actually influence the strategy as opposed to like managing the fallout. Like there's all of these intricate little things I feel like that go into this. And I don't know if you've ever been in a meeting, but like the CEO or an executive that they'll ask a question and like, or say, hey, this was an issue, what happened? And the person responsible is like, well, this happened, but it's because Tony sent me this email and he was supposed to send it at this time. And Teresa was supposed to get me this by yes. And I didn't know, and they're like, well, that's not true because so-and-so said that, like, instead of just being like, hey, here's what the CEO wants to hear. My mistake won't happen again. Here's how I'm going to fix it in the future.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
That's it. That's it. Most executives, they don't care if you make a mistake. That's going to happen.
mm-hmm,
What they care about is how are you going to fix it and how are we going to prevent it from not happening again, right? It's
mm-hmm,
just what's the solution?
mm-hmm,
So, but people are afraid in American business culture, probably a lot more countries too. They're afraid to make mistakes out of fear,
yeah,
which is just not healthy, right? And companies like that probably, if the ones that last long have a really high turnover rate, right?
yeah.
Bad reviews, high turnover rate. I don't know. But all of that just comes into play. And if we're going to get practical for leaders who are listening, if you're in the middle of a transition, a
Mm-hmm,
big transition right now, if you have an integrity scorecard, with Monday morning actions and things like that, moving in the right direction, like, or the one-on-one pulse instead of asking for a status update, like the one on what should we be, I guess what I'm trying to say is what should we be asking to find all of these little frictional points and addressing them so they don't stack up and just create mass in productivity.
we're bringing technology without thinking about how our people will react to it. And there's this excellent piece too about decision making for us as leaders, as far as that goes. And I usually use this depending on the needs of the leader and the sponsor, but there are four different types of decision making models. One is directive, like I say it as it goes. I'm looking for the most efficient thing, whatever works for me. There's the analytical. I love data. I look for numbers all the time as a leader. Let's say
Yeah.
behavioral, I'm much more about my people. I'm much more about the relationships and those pieces with my customers, with my stakeholders, just in general.
Yeah.
And then there's a conceptual part where I love to innovate. I love to bring new ideas. I think about the big picture.
Yep.
And what I would really advise leaders to do is see where you fit in there and really understand from that experience. If you are, let's say, a directive, you pick efficiency. What are your blind spots with that? What are some things you do see and what are things that you don't see? And what kind of ways can you bring team members that have those other three models that can help you with that blind spot? So starting from there, I think is really helpful, is understanding how you decide what you do and then finding the gaps in there. So if someone was, let's say, analytical and they all cared about numbers, which this is what we're seeing, right? I was actually listening to the Diary of CEO with the CEO of Uber, Dara,
Yep.
talking about how engineers make the best, leaders and CEOs, I think. And I'm, don't quote me because I think it's what he was mentioning in there. And part of me said, yes, sure, but those are analytical people for the most part. So what
Yes.
about the people that have the behavioral approach in their decision making? That's going to lack in there a lot. And so some of the
Yeah.
ways that he was answering questions, I thought it was fantastic because you could see this person, you can see who he is behind all of this. And then in his approach, more of the people oriented part needed to come out. He had it, but he didn't know how to bring it out. So we need to not only understand what we are, but bring the right people that help us with those blind spots. So start with the self awareness and then see how other people can help you with your blind spots.
Man, I love that. Maybe you should just run my business for me.
I think you're doing a good job.
Okay, so what about let's talk a little bit about like the some quick fire
Yeah,
quick
questions.
questions. Just
Yeah.
yeah, like so what in your experience, what is the most overrated leadership tool used during a rollout?
This one actually, I take it so personal because I've had
Oh
nightmares about
no.
it. It's PowerPoint decks.
Yeah. Okay, expand a little. How come?
Yeah, I think that we spend so much time trying to make a slide look good and make it sound like we're so smart and innovative. And then you put that same person with the PowerPoint right behind them in front of someone. And it's like, you could have spent more time trying to learn how to speak and how to eloquently say what you wanted to say rather
Yep.
than what's on the slide. And the reason why I think it's so personal for me is I spent some time as a consultant in a firm. And the amount of time I spend creating slide decks to the amount of time that I would spend with the people was just insane. Like I would spend two
Yeah.
hours on one slide. And I remember, and this is one of the reasons why, again, I came out and started my own firm because that's not where my energy needs to be. My energy needs to be with this. We
Mhm.
need to talk. We need to learn how to navigate
Yeah.
in real life situation rather than what the PowerPoint slide says. So
Yeah,
that's
I
what I
I
would
used to be
say.
the same way. I mean, now I just do a Google Doc. Like, I'll just list a bunch of stuff out in text, and I'll just walk you through it. Like, if you wanna read this, that's fine, but I'm gonna explain it to you,
Yeah.
right? But I think, business like, especially I've had bosses that are like, "The deck looks good, but make the logo a little bigger. I
Yeah.
wanna make" you know what I mean? Like, it's needs to be dynamic. It needs to look you use the wrong font and, like, all of this stuff, and I just wanna be like, "Dude, this doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. We're not putting this slide deck on our website. We're not using it as an ad." But, I think they want the person that they're if it's a sales thing, they might want the person to perceive them as somebody that's really polished. So I guess I understand it more in that world, but
Mhm.
internally, that's just a waste of time. Like, and if we're having a meeting, so Susie's going to pitch us on her new idea for the PR campaign. Why spend that time on a cool slide deck with a bunch of visuals and transitions as opposed to just coming in and saying, "Hey, this is what I think."
Yeah.
So I agree with you there. How about what is one word for a leader who chooses profit over the people? What do you tell them? One word.
Ooh, ah, I don't think listeners are going to like this word, but it's going to be hubris.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we forget that the profits are there because of the things that we've done in our culture and our people and our for our customers, that's very hubris to think.
Yep. Absolutely. 100%. How about this one? What is the integrity tax, which is the price that we pay for doing things the right way, even when it's harder?
Hmm. Patience. It's
Yeah.
patience. Um, you and I will talk about movies because I can tell we both love movies. So
I love movies.
movies and TV shows. I mentioned Ted Lasso. I'm going to mention Ted Lasso again with a client of mine. I was talking through their experience and how they were shifting the culture and how they were using integrity and how they were frustrated because it was taking longer than they had expected. And I knew that he was a Ted Lasso fan, so I jokingly told him, "You're in season 2. You're in season 2 of Ted Lasso right now. Just wait until season 3 comes through." And for those of you, again, who haven't seen Ted Lasso, I cannot rave from a leadership perspective and someone who has a doctorate how fantastically this has been written
Yep.
and really great leadership case study if you wanted to learn a little bit more. But you need patience
Yep.
and you need to understand that things like this take time. It's not going to be what you and I are used to. Log on our phone, we instantly go to an application, we can do things faster. Humans take time. We are not
Yeah.
robots, we are not AI. We need to register and process things. And for us as
Yeah.
leaders, the more you understand that, the better.
So I have a great little personal story for you about humans taking time and needing to learn things and making mistakes. So I was working at a corporation, um, and my experience overall was fantastic. But there was this one person on the sales team that was just very hypercritical of everybody else.
Mm,
And I was in charge of all the web content, right? And there was one article that had a misspelled word. She screenshotted it and sent it to the whole team and CC'd everybody and was like, "Can you go fix this error?" And I was just like, wow. Like, first of all, I understand, you don't want errors to happen, especially on your website. You want to look professional. I get it. But um, this kind of stuff just happens. Content goes out with mistakes. Stuff, gets missed. Something doesn't look perfect. Like this kind of stuff happens all the time. Like this is life. This is business. It's messy. And, people are so afraid that everybody's going to be like, "Oh, I listened to it right around here. You made a mistake. Like, what a loser. What an idiot. So, like, to handle that situation that way just made me feel worse. What I would have done is just personally reach out and say, "Hey, man, great work. I noticed there's one spelling error right here. Would you mind fixing that when you have time? Not a huge deal, but we do want to make sure, that we're proofreading and all of this." Like,
yeah.
I was just blown away. And actually, it later on with my relationship with this woman in the sales team, I was the marketing director, and she was in sales. She sent me a scathing email that was way out of like just not called for, and I just called her and I literally I was like, "Look, don't you ever send me an email like that ever again. Do you understand?" And I like lost it. And then I called my boss after. She was like crying after I got off the phone. And so I called my boss and I was like, "Hey, this just happened. So and so called me, and I just let her have it. If you have any questions, if she reaches out to you, I'm happy to talk about it. I apologize that it went like this, but she was basically saying that, my partner and I are just sitting around doing nothing all day and all of this stuff. And I just kind of lost it,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
It,
So
yeah, I thank you for sharing that example. A couple things that come to mind immediately is when people talk to us that way, that's how they talk to themselves. That's how they treat themselves. And then they mirror that right back to us. So in
yeah.
your example about the mistake, I've had the same similar situation where I could tell this leader was taking advantage of my work and what I was doing. I created this document. There was one error where like the 8 should have been like a 7, let's say, in this, like, I think it was like maybe a 20-page document. He basically called me out and said, this cannot happen again, and hung up. And all I could think of was, because usually for me, I'm an anxious person. So I'll go
Me too.
into,
Yep.
blaming myself
Yep. Me too. Immediately.
immediately. That's what I did.
Mhm.
And then I took a step back and I said, hold on. Why did he have to do it that way? That was one mistake. Why couldn't he just fix it and say, hey, I just fixed that on the document. I got it for you. Because we weren't going to give that to the client just yet. It was sitting with him for editing, nothing
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you have people proofread stuff.
Exactly.
That's why you say, hey, I know I'm the leader, I'm the big shot, I'm this and that, I created this, but will you look this over to make sure I didn't make any mistakes? See, there's so many
Lots of
leaders out there that
examples.
just can't do that. They just can't do that.
But it's how
They
they talk
can't
to
do that.
themselves, right?
For sure.
And I can almost guarantee you they get it from their former leaders and how they've
Sure.
trained him to do those things. So
Yep.
the opportunity then becomes, let's break this cycle. This is not okay. That just because someone talked to you that way and now you're mirroring that same behavior into your on towards your people, that needs to break. Let's break it. Let's do it better. AI is going to do a lot of this stuff for us anyways. It's going to correct it. It's going to correct our spelling. It's going to correct and edit things for us. Then you
Sure.
might as well focus on the human part.
Oh, you should 100%. Well, no, not 100%, but you should like 85% focus on the human part
Yeah.
because yeah, you're right. Like AI has made a lot of this stuff,
Yeah.
insignificant little errors and things like that, and because it can easily fix things like this, and it writes better. I use AI to write with my tone and voice
Mhm.
because AI is a better writer than I am, not because I can't do it, not because I'm not willing to do it, but because it does a better job when I feed it the right things, right?
Exactly.
But I'm not going to have my AI bot call my uh, teammate and say, "Hey, look, I don't have time for you today. Talk to my AI chat bot. They'll take all your concerns into consideration and feed it back to me, and then I'll have them get back to you." Like it's just ridiculous. But I feel like that's where it's going to come to. Like the CEO, they're going to be so busy. Just submit your issue to my AI, and they'll let me know. And it's just
Yeah.
all of that stuff. But man, I don't know. I think what we've really gotten here is like a master class in why soulless strategy is going to fail, and
Mhm.
for those who realize that their transformation, is stuck and they want to bring it to life. um, you have to like I am like a tech AI marketing guy, but that is not the thing to focus on.
Mhm.
Especially if you have a large company. I mean, the bigger your company, the harder this gets, because then you have to train the leaders under you to also do this, and they have to train the people under them to also do this, and then you got to hire the right people, and it's not just who's got the best resume, who's bringing in a bunch of business. Man, there's just so much that goes into it. But the final thing is, where can people find the InVivo tools and start leading with integrity?
Mhm.
And what can we expect from the next episode? What do you want to talk about? I think a really good thing that you and I have talked about is like the cost of silence. I've been thinking about through this whole entire episode. I've been thinking about this, right? When people just don't say anything when they should or they could, and it would change. I mean, not saying something when you should can literally ruin a whole, like it can ruin a lot, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I don't know. That might be a good one, but tell us, where do we go? InVivoLeadershipStrategies.com,
Yep.
Instagram,
Instagram.
same thing. InVivo
Absolutely.
Leadership Strategies, right?
Exactly. So the exactly website www.invivoleadershipstrategies.com, Instagram InVivo Leadership Strategies. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Layli Sani, or you can just search InVivo Leadership Strategies there, and you can find us. And I agree. People say I've been on both sides of it. I've been on three sides of the silence, cost of silence, as an employee, as a
Yep.
leader, and then as a
Yep.
consultant. So I am super excited to talk about this next week. I think it's a great topic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. Okay, well, great. So listen, if audience members, if you guys are liking what we're talking about here, if this is relevant, I promise you it's relevant because we're talking to you about the integration of tech and humans in business and why it's not going to happen how you might want it to or you
Mhm.
might think. Um, like the podcast, subscribe, share it in the description below. We'll drop some links for you guys to check out. But right before we leave, Layli, if I get a consultation with you, what does that look like? What do I get?
We spend 30 minutes talking about you, where you are, what you're feeling as a leader, and we move from there. I mean, we have two different services that we offer. So if you want some sponsorship work, we'll look at the sponsorship accelerated service that we have, or from a more of a mid-level leader, we have some leadership framework as well. But we'll see what fits with your style. And for me, most importantly, we'll spend some time together to really understand what is going on with you emotionally speaking, because I think that's where a lot of the core pieces are going to be for us to explore. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, excellent. I will see you next Wednesday morning because that's when we shoot these and we post once a week,
I
right?
do.
So get out there. If you're a leader and you're wondering, you have any, this has sparked any sort of insight, definitely reach out. Even comment on the YouTube video, comment on the podcast, what have you. We just want to hear from you guys. We want your ideas, and we will see you next week. Until then, I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my day and try to be a good leader. How about you?
Definitely, Max. Thank you so much for being such a great co host. And thank you, everybody, for listening. We are so happy to do this every week. And we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.